Welcome back to my channel, everybody. Today is a step-by-step on how to paint this VW bus. We're going to be working on a blue primed canvas, just phthalo blue and white first, and then I dried it off with a hairdryer after. The colors are light ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, neon orange, lemon yellow, turquoise, sap green, black, and burnt sienna. I'll list them all below. Beginning with a small mop brush, I'm going to take my light cobalt blue, a little bit of phthalo blue, tap and blend the two together. And then we're going to come in with some clouds by tapping and swirling small little circles. I'm going to start doing this on a bit of an angle diagonally. I want the sky to have that swept up feeling that lifts up towards the right hand corner. Take some white and start making clouds over on the left, swirling, pulling and flicking up, dusting and softly blending, but don't completely blend it in to the blue, otherwise you'll lose that little bit of a highlight. Now I've got a mini fan brush and I'm going to show you guys a really fun technique how to make clouds using a fan brush. It makes them really wispy and creates that interesting movement up in the sky that's kind of peaceful and dreamy like. So you can use a little bit of water on your brush for this and then just keep making light circles and flicking up. And then I'm going to slide and drag my brush to make skinnier, sweepier looking ones over to a large flat brush or any brush that you want to use for this. Yellow, orange, and white. I'm going to mix those colors together and I'm going to pull a line across the bottom. This is for the horizon. And then I'm going to push up and do small circles both directions continuously, not taking my brush off the canvas until I need to load it back up. I'm going to pull in some turquoise with this and start layering over gradually, pulling and blending softly, at the same time creating some little clouds back and forth quite quickly to blend that on an angle, and then come in again with my light yellowy peachy color, and then you can do some that just go straight across like that and then gradually go up on that angle. This will give you that really dramatic soft swept sky. Just going to brighten that up with a little bit of white, and then we're going to come in with the water. So for the water we're going to take phthalo blue. You don't need to wash your brush off. We're going to line it up and pull from one end all the way across. We'll do this a couple times. Back and forth, nice long sweeping strokes. Blend it out. Get it as straight as you can. And then layer over top on the bottom of your brush with turquoise. Pull and blend back and forth. And then a darker line with the phthalo right on the top for that horizon line. I'm going to take just a little bit more of my phthalo and make the corner on the left side a little bit darker. This helps to draw you in and create a little bit more perspective as well. Let's take some of our warm colors, mix it with white. Now I'm using neons. You can use any variation of these colors. You don't need neon. I just really enjoy neon paints. And I'm making a tan sand color with burnt sienna, that orange, yellow, and white. So here we are going to work in the foreground, just sort of blocking in color here. This is where our light's going to be, and then everywhere else down below will be the shadow from the van. We're going to begin painting our palm trees. I'm using a Filbert brush because it is easy to pull up those tree trunks and create all the palm leaves. Now I'm taking a little bit of black and burnt sienna. I'm going to start one down here on the left. You want to have a sweepy little arch to yours. That also helps to create a mood in a painting. I love sweeping palm trees with that arch they have to them. It creates a nice mood. Then I'm going to take a little bit of white peach and just very lightly drag, barely touching, to create a highlight and some texture on that tree trunk. I'm going to come in with another one right here, but I'm only going to bring it down part way because I know that that van is going to be right there. Then another one, this one's a taller one, and then we have our biggest one on the far right. It's going to be somewhat thicker and a little bit lighter in color. Let's begin our palm leaves. I'm going to pull out a whole bunch of little arches like this. Start from the center, pull and flick out using sap green, black, or just sap green. Now this one you can see a little bit of a darker area in there with some coconuts. And these two palm trees over here are going to kind of be blending into one another and overlapping. So don't worry too much about not knowing where each leaf should go and what makes sense. Just paint a whole bunch of them and they'll just blend in naturally and it'll look totally fine. Now for some highlights and all those other little leaves on each of those palms, you can add some sap yellow or any yellow you want with your sap green. You can use cadmium yellow, like I said, neon yellow, lemon yellow. Any yellow will work. It just depends on what you prefer. If you want more of a pop, then you can add a little bit of white to your yellow as well. I like to do that on some of my palm leaves, like you can see here. Just pick a few different ones. You don't want to have a highlight on every single palm. So the idea is that some of them are dark, some of them are mid-tone with that sap green, and some of them will have just yellow and a little bit of yellow and white. That way you get a variation and it will make your palm leaves look 3D and like they're coming from the front, the side, and the back. And of course you can use any brush that you want to for painting palm leaves. I wouldn't recommend a liner brush. Over the years of teaching, we've found that it is very time consuming and tricky and hard to control the liner brush. You can get an effective palm tree and leaf by using either the Filbert brush or a mini fan brush. So I'd recommend trying both and see what you prefer and what works best for you. So I'm just going to fill these out, add as much shadow and highlights as I want. I might add a little bit more during the process as that paint dries. As acrylic paint dries, it can sometimes look a little bit darker, so it's really common to go back and adjust your highlights and your shadows at the end. So here we are still using the Filbert brush, taking our warm colors and adding a little highlight by turning your brush straight and then even. Sometimes palm leaves have kind of a goldeny peach tone to some of the leaves, so I'm going to pick just a few here and add some of those warmer colors. I think this is what really makes my palm tree stand out, is when I add these warmer tones in here. And the peach color is very complementary to that light ultramarine or light cobalt blue that we have going on in the sky, and we're going to be adding in the foreground for our shadow. So I'm going to start the roof rack just by doing a narrow rectangle and a few little lines. You can slow this video down and do one line at a time with me. I'm not worried too much about how even it is, how straight everything is. It's about the intention and the idea, and you know, sometimes just a few little lines here and there and the basic shape is all you need. just to get the idea across in your painting. And I'm not out to make this look like a photograph by any means. I find that paintings have more character when they have little imperfections, so don't stress, guys, about all your lines and proportions. Making some mint with my white and a little bit of turquoise. You can also use yellow and white for this. We'll start the little slight arch, the roof of the van, and then begin working on the windshield. You'll notice those lines on either side have a slight slant to them. The angle that this van is on is, well, pretty slanty, so everything kind of has an abstract kind of slant to it in this that I really like, and that's why I decided to paint this one. I am using a reference photo for this, doing my own thing with it, and playing on color, which I know my husband will enjoy and appreciate. He really likes turquoise and tropical colors. So I'm coming in with a dark shadow inside and in the back of the van. I've got some black. You can tint your black with any of the colors that we have here to make it more interesting. And then just a few little lines there on the right and the left. It is that simple, guys. Don't stress yourself out about, does this look like a window? What's this in here? Does that look right? Honestly, just look at what you're painting and break it down into the shapes, lines, dots, triangles, whatever, squares, whatever you have to do to make a shape out of it will really make your painting process so much easier and less overwhelming. So I'm going to come in with the basic shape of the front of the van. It comes down in a dramatic V right down here and then rounded on the bottom. I am going to go back and adjust the windshield a little bit. I realized after that I needed to make them a little bit lower. And the side of the van is going to be really narrow and sort of squashy looking. And then just come in with the tires. Think about color, placement, light and dark. And then the rest will just come as you keep progressing and building your painting up. So making a light green. You can take turquoise, white, and yellow for this. I'll then be going over top of it later. As this paint sets in, I'll come over top with a highlight on top of that, using a little bit more white. Now the side of the van has a lot of light and shadow to make it look shiny, so I come in and I kind of just wiggle and zigzag up and down with my brush. And then along this corner right here, I'm going to come in with my green. It's going to be slightly darker, and then right in the middle there, it's round and shiny, so we need to make it look round by taking a lighter shade of green. Use turquoise. I'm playing around with my green and mixing it with phthalo blue here and there so that I've got so many different shades and little dabs of it all around, so I get all those reflections and shiny looking areas. So right here I'm just going to begin making my windshield a little bit lower. I'm going to paint over this and then do the same thing all over again. I didn't want to cut this out of the video because I wanted you guys to see that sometimes you might have to do this, and don't be afraid, you can do it, especially with acrylic paint. It's so forgiving. If you're having a hard time painting over something because it's too wet, just take a hair dryer. I always have that on hand, and I dry things off in order to apply a layer right away. Another thing I want to talk about quickly is I think out of all the questions you guys asked me, the most popular one is, or commonly asked one is, how do I keep my paint from drying out so quickly? I keep my studio at a cooler temperature. Temperature is key in the drying time of your paint. So of course you're not going to be comfortable painting in a freezing cold studio, but if you have the heat on during the night and then come in and shut it off, it'll just kind of start to cool off but still be comfortable, and your palette will stay nice and wet. And if you don't do that, you can also have a little spray bottle that has a fine mister on the end, and you can just lightly mist over your palette, or just mist over your canvas. There are mediums as well that you can add to your paints to make them act more like oil paints so that they dry a lot slower. So here I am coming in with those shadows again. I added my headlights, just the shapes of them so far, and another highlight along the side, and then that bumper along the bottom. So at the top of the van, there's just a little shadow there underneath that roof rack, and then a few little lines that go diagonally. I'm going to start adding more of the black down here for the tires. It's going to be thicker on the front side and then skinnier on the back. Now I go back to those tires quite a lot during the filming of this, and I think out of everything in this painting, I found the tires, the wheels, the most difficult. And I haven't painted a lot of vehicles, but I have painted probably 5 or 6 in my lifetime, and I recall every single one I painted, I had the hardest time with the tires for some reason. I don't know what that is, and if any of you artists out there can relate to me, leave a comment below and let me know I'm not the only one. So I'm going to just start adding some more highlights in between the shadows down here, just freshening that up with my bright warm colored for my highlights, the yellow, orange, and white. Now if you really like the highlights that I'm adding, it has a bit more of a glow and a pop to it. I am using my neon luminous acrylic paints by Whole Bean. Okay, those are my favorite neon paints that I've ever used. I've tried a lot of them, and I'll have that listed below in the description. Hopefully I remember to do that, but you guys, that's probably my second most commonly asked question, is what types of paints do I use? So I use Winsor & Newton, Galleria, Artist Loft. I use, what are the other ones? Amsterdam, Golden Acrylics. Golden Acrylics are beautiful. And my most recent addiction, I love Arteza. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but yeah, they sent me a whole bunch of paints, and I've been talking about them in my last few videos and showing you guys. They're a beautiful, beautiful paint to use if you like heavy-bodied, rich, high pigment paints. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of flecks of shadow. I'm using Phthalo blue, the light cobalt blue, and adding just little dabs, taps, little lines all around the lights, inside a little ring of a highlight, and then I'm going to go outside with a darker ring for a shadow, adding a little bit up in the windshield too. I was talking about paints at that time, but there's just a few little lines there. So think outside of the box when you're applying your highlights and shadows. Don't think just straight white for a highlight or straight black for a shadow. Be creative and tint your highlights with another color. It may not show up that much, but it really does make a difference in your artwork, because colors play on each other in a painting. Black is really nice for a contrast, but I most often will tint it with another color. So I'll have a blue black, a green black, or a deep red black, sometimes purple, and it really does help the colors play on each other in a painting and it'll make your artwork better. And why not use more color when you can? It's so much fun. So I'm just adding more highlights to that V shape on the front of the bus. It's a lot of going back and highlighting and shadowing, just building that up, but you can see this is starting to come together. I got to a point in this painting, it was hours of painting actually, because I was really out of my comfort zone. Like I said, I haven't painted a lot of vehicles, and the ones that I've painted I haven't done for many years. I'm talking like probably at least 10 years. So this was done just for my husband for his birthday. He had no idea. I did surprise him with it today, and he absolutely loved it, so I'm really glad. But yeah, this took hours to paint, and that's why I don't have it as a real-time tutorial like my other videos you guys have been seeing and I've been uploading. But like I said, I wasn't going to make this as a tutorial. I was just going to have it as a time lapse actually, and then I decided, because I posted a picture of it on Instagram yesterday, and so many of you guys were asking for tutorials, so I thought I would change my time lapse and try to slow it down a little bit and make it a tutorial for you guys. So I'm doing my best I can with this, and I hope you guys learn a lot from this video, even though it is a little bit sped up in some parts. But you can see I'm not skipping the light and the shadow. I'm not really skipping anything, I'm just speeding it up a little bit. So if you guys have any questions, head over to my Patreon page. I offer some exclusive content over there. If you guys want to show your appreciation, a lot of you guys want to donate to me a little bit to say thank you for my tutorials, which you don't have to do at all, but I really do appreciate it, you guys. It takes an awful lot of time and energy to create these videos for you and the art, and then break it down into steps that you guys can follow along. So if you would like to check that out, I'll have a link below for my Patreon page. And then you can ask me any questions. I have Q&A that I've got another Q&A coming up actually, an updated one. So if you become a patron, you can ask me a question and I'll be happy to answer that for you. So I'm coming in with the little emblem now, a circle using phthalo green, and I'll be using a little bit of turquoise too. I started with a narrow X, and then I did the other lines after. I found that was the easiest. So there's another little headlight right there, and I'm going to add a little bit of peach to it, as well as the side mirror here and the one over here on the right. The one over here on the right you can see a little bit better than the one on the left, and it's going to be a little bit wider on the top and then get narrower at the bottom. Add another little headlight over here, starting with peach this time, and then a little layer of white. I'm taking my light cobalt or light ultramarine blue, adding a bit of a shadow. Complementary colors. I really like to use complementary colors for my highlights and my shadows. And then I outline with a little bit of a watered down kind of translucent blue black. Pull a little line over, and then a little half circle where it's anchored to the van. Do a little antenna there on the side, and then right here I just thought I would give the indication that there's a surfboard up there. I don't really know if it looks like a surfboard, but it kind of feels like it could be one. I just wanted to, it seemed empty up there, so I wanted to add a little idea that there's a surfboard up there. And then I'll add a little bit of one, maybe the end of one at the back of the van after. And just adding a little shadow over here on this one on the side. A little bit of that liquid watered down black, and then a bit of a white for a highlight. So just kind of fine tuning all my details here. And this painting is all done. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I hope you guys learned a lot. Have a wonderful day. Please like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel for more. See you next time very soon, guys. Bye!